Alright guys, this week's video is over the upgrades that I did to the Springfield Armory Prodigy, the DS 1911, to actually get it running trouble-free, accurate, and trying to get it towards a staccato 2011 setting. I picked up the version 2, the 4.25 Springfield Prodigy. The version 2 is supposed to have corrected a lot of issues from the version 1, i.e. the beta testers, the purchasers. So I picked this up to give it a try. Now, if you follow the channel and if you guys know me, I love staccato. I've been running staccatos since 2019, and I stand behind staccato. But I had a lot of questions on the release of this, and I wanted to see the difference of a $2,600 staccato C2 compared to a $1,200 Springfield Prodigy. Initial thoughts, there's a lot of issues with it that I saw, and then I shot it, and within the first 100 rounds, 200 rounds, I had a lot of issues. And a lot of issues was the slide, of course, was dragging on the stripper bar almost, and I noticed a lot of reviews to when you got it back there, you'd want to hang up, and actually, once it got past the disconnect, it would freeze. So with that in mind, I took on the project to see what I could do to a $1,200 pistol and try to get it along the same lines with a staccato. With that, there's going to be, again, at $1,200, you got to understand, it comes down to price. And this Prodigy, compared to a staccato, the entire insides is MEMS, metal injected molding. And I'm not going to say they're bad, but what I will say, it depends on what you want with your pistol. If you are a once in a month, once in a year shooter, then this product straight from the factory may be well for you with all the MEMS in it. But if you shoot a lot, you get high round counts, you need to invest in steel parts because the MEMS breaks. I mean, one of the biggest things, or one of the issues I've seen in classes is the slide stop. That was MEMS. That's not solid steel. So I'll get into it, what I did, parts that I used to replace it. I'll give you the pricing, and hopefully, again, doing this on a budget. Again, I've been running 2011s for almost 4 years now. So I've got a lot of parts, spare parts. I tinker a lot with my staccatos. So everything in here I had on hand. So that being said, I'm going to include the price if you want to purchase it and how much it's going to cost. As I said earlier, the number one issue I saw right off was the disconnect. It was hanging up, the slide was hanging up on the disconnect and almost wanting to hang back. So I disassembled the pistol and looked inside, and again these are Cerakoted. Everything's Cerakoted versus the DLC like on a staccato.
On the slide, as you can see, of course, that's the stripper bar. That's what I took the fine grit sandpaper and worked down because it had Cerakote lined there. If you can look inside, you'll see the shiny parts now where I've worn off the Cerakote here and here to smooth everything out. And on this side, as you can see, the Cerakote was too thick all the way down through here. So once I got that in, it started getting smooth. Of course, I've got the disconnect in this one, but a good way to tell was once I got it on, I could actually move it down and it would fall out, compared to it would stick, would not even ride before I'd done this. Now, as you can see on the frame itself, it's worn in here. Remove the Cerakote through here on top edges, and here as well on the rails, both sides. It was caked in, the Cerakote was, so which is causing a lot of issues with shooters because it's got all the friction. And of course I replaced the disconnect here. The other thing,
with the Cerakote, they went a little crazy with it. And what I mean by the slide Cerakoted, frame Cerakoted, and when they sprayed it on the inside of the slide, the rails was Cerakoted. Inside the hole for the disconnector, it was Cerakoted. The stripper bar that runs across the disconnect, it was Cerakoted. Once I bought it brand new, I had a pistol that had the trigger pull. It would average between about 5.3 to 5.6 pounds. And what you got to understand, again, the sear, the hammer, everything in this stock is MEMS, so you can't hone the edges to get a solid trigger pull with those parts. I picked up, or I had, the Brazos ignition kit. With that, it comes with the hammer, the sear, hammer strut, and I had a disconnect for it. They're all steel. One good thing I like about the Brazos kit is it's a drop-in kit. I say drop-in. It will go in, but normally only thing you have to do is actually fit the thumb safeties when installing.
That, of course, I replaced the hammer and hammer strut, and I replaced it with the Brazos. Again, all these are matched together. He actually hones the hooks on your disconnect, so you actually have a tuned trigger once you get it. Habitually, I'm seeing when I put these in staccatos, when I get them from him, they're coming in at 1.9 pounds. So I'm actually having to add 2.3 pounds to it to get it right where I want it to be.
Altogether, that kit would run you $200. So now we're at $1,400. After that, parts-wise, I replaced the slide stop again because it was MEMS, and I've seen a lot of those break during training in classes. And I replaced that with a 10-8. It's extended slightly, so it's got more of a lever, or a ledge, excuse me. And I like that better, even though it indents. I use my support thumb when I actuate the slide. So that actually helped as well.
This is a stock. If you'll see these holes here, you can tell this is MEMS. Here, well, you can feel the difference in them as well. And this is the 10-8. Now you can see the ledge. Let's see if I can get that to show up. So, and even here I can see I'm getting uniform on my barrel lugs. It's
the Recoil Spring. No one can tell me exactly what poundage was in it, and it felt heavy, and so I replaced it with a 12-pound Commander length.
This part I actually like. I know there's a lot of individuals saying the difference between this and the Staccato C2 is the Recoil Master. If you follow me, you know I do not care for the Recoil Master. This is simple. Yes, you have to have an Allen wrench to take it apart, but once it comes in, I like this setup. It allows me to tune it like I do with the toolless guide rod.
On the ignition kit I installed, of course, it had a sear spring. What I noticed right off when I was trying to adjust the sear spring, the fingers, they would not hold a bend to the extent that you could bend it and it would actually bend all the way down compared to a spring steel. So I believe they didn't use, or it may have been an inferior product, but it would not hold a set so you could actually work on your trigger adjustment.
You can see how it bends Like if I bend in this finger, it just takes it. It just bends too easy. So to me, that just tells me it's not spring steel, and that's going to cause a lot of issues with everyone's trigger pulls.
Another issue, I've got several Delta Point Pros, i.e. I run staccato a lot, so I've got several of them laying around. So I opted for the DPP plate. Now, I can't remember, there's other optics that fit this footprint, so I ordered it. I mean, again, I believe it was like $70, not including shipping for the plate. But what I found out is once you mount the Delta Point Pro, you run out of elevation, right? So I had it topped out, and you'll see in the video, I had it topped out, and it was still about 4 inches low with the Delta Point. The issue being with a staccato, it mounts flush on the staccato slide. The issue we're having here is now you have a plate with a large, thick Delta Point Pro, so it actually picks it up. So I wouldn't advise running a Delta Point Pro on a Prodigy with this plate. But what I can say is the plate itself, Agency Arms plate, I like the plate. I like the simplicity. I like where it's dovetail in. It locks itself in. It's a solid plate. Now, I touched on ignition parts. Again, what I did to fix the Prodigy. Recoil Spring. Ignition system, the Brazos that we stated earlier. The slide stop, stated earlier. The red dirt trigger, bow and trigger, as we stated earlier. Now, if you can look, it's sporting one of my prototypes with the company that I'm working with for the 2011s and 1911s. So, I mean, that'll be coming out soon as well. With everything involved, again, you're looking at $200 for the ignition kit, and that includes hammer, sear, another $60 for the trigger bow, another $50 for the slide stop, and probably $5 for a recoil spring. So again, now we're still around $350, and you'll see momentarily in the video what it's capable of now. Okay, that's pretty much where I got it to at this point to actually run solid. Again, you'll see it in the video. There's a couple additional things I'm going to do to it. I ordered the parts. It's the Wilson Combat thumb safeties. Again, these are MEMS, and I've seen those break. Once I get that done, I also ordered a ejector. Those are MEMS, and I've seen those shear off as well, especially with high round counts. And the other thing I did do was I tuned the extractor. It's running, as you'll see in the video. I'm getting good patterns, but that may be something I'll keep an eye on as well. If it doesn't hold a tune, then I may just go ahead and replace that as well. Okay, another issue, holsters. I've heard on the internet that they will not fit a lot of holsters. That being said, I've got the Safariland for staccato, and on the Safariland fits fine. The main holster I run for the range is the Blackhawk T-Series Level 3, and of course it's got the Ghostman fabric overlay. Another links in the description. But I've heard it doesn't work with these, and I have no issue running this on the range as well. Accuracy. I had, and I forgot to mention earlier, but I had a lot of slop, a lot of side to side movement in the Prodigy factory when I bought it and just broke it out. Once I installed the 10.8 slide stop, it tightened everything up. There's no movement, and it actually runs extremely smooth. Let's discuss magazines. Staccato magazine, 2011, and the Duramag Prodigy magazine. 17 rounder, 17 rounder. Staccato mag, now they're on a Gen 3, right? That's the version everyone's getting now is Gen 3s because they worked it through from the Gen 1. The Duramag is still on the Gen 1, so you're going to see issues that we used to have with these staccato magazines. One of the issues is 17 round as supposed to. Duramag, a lot of rattling. And what you can take that out, but you'd have to purchase a spacer because, again, this is initially made for 45 ACP. They're running 38 super and 9 mil, so it's the length. So you get a spacer that slides up in here on the wall and actually tightens it up for you. So again, guys, it's hard to compare. Depends on what you want to do with it, how much money you want to sink into it. All this I've done myself. So even at, say I put $350 in the Prodigy to get it running like a top, I installed it myself. Now, if you can install it yourself, you're probably going to save $200-300 on top of that. But even at that, again, you're at $1,800-1,900, depending on what you do, compared to a staccato. But as you saw in the last video, the accuracy is still not there because it's not a fitted barrel. And a lot of people will not notice it, especially up close, but once, and I shot it at 50 yards. And again, you got to remember, at 50 yards, because my optic, I couldn't get that elevation, I'm actually trying to hold around the chin level at that point to try to get it to drop in at center mass. So then, what's my thoughts? Again, it's hard to compare. Everyone wants to compare the Prodigy with the staccato. Again, there's a price point. We came to a $1,200 price point with a Prodigy DS 1911 when the staccato price point's around $2,600. How did they get down to that price? It's a couple ways. As we stated, MEMS. Everything in there is cheaply made by the factory and thrown in there. There's nothing, I have yet to find anything hand fitted. Hopefully this helps. If it does, guys, leave me some comments down. Let me know what you think about it. Are you running Prodigy, having issues? Are you seeing issues? Have you compared the Staccato 2011 to the Prodigy DS19? If you have, what's your thoughts? Me personally, once I put $300 in it, and it runs like a top, as you could tell from the video. I've had zero issues. I've got pictures. I mean, it's carboned up inside the feed ramps. Luckily, and I'll mention this again, one of the things I did do is I polished my feed ramp and polished the chamber and throat. I noticed it was sticking up slightly when I was doing dry fires, but I did that. Again, I put 800 rounds through it this last time with these upgrades. But again, no matter your choice, no matter what you choose, the main thing is train. You got to train. Sometimes it's better to pay $1,200, invest, put $1,500 in a pistol, and then spend the rest of it on ammunition if that's what you want. But it's going to help you no matter what you do. Because in the end, guys, all we're trying to do is, and all I ask from you, stay safe.